So, you have money for me?
Sir, did you mean that I have a movie for you?
What did I say?
Never mind. Remember that Nun movie we made about 4 years ago?
Can you be more specific?
One of our spin-offs for The Conjuring? Because we decided to make this into a whole cinematic universe now.
Oh, the big bad demon nun scary movie. Of course I remember it.
We made a ton of money with that.
Yeah, so I was thinking that maybe we could make another one.
Oh. I never thought about that at all.
It's just, while the first movie made us a ton of profit, it wasn't really well received by critics, so I thought that maybe we should raise the stakes a little bit.
How so?
The Nun, sir? But there's a 2 at the end of it.
Is it gonna make us enough profit to extend that ridiculous and preposterous strike?
Yes.
Sold!
The Nun II is the latest installment in the Conjuring franchise, directed by Michael Chaves and stars Taissa Farmiga, Jonas Bloquet, and Storm Reed. The film takes place 4 years after the events at the Abbey of St. Carta, and Sister Irene returns once again to face the demonic force known as Valak. I'm gonna be real honest, I stopped caring about the Conjuring franchise as soon as I found out that they were now turning this into a cinematic universe of some sort. I loved the first 2 Conjuring films. They were unique in their own way, and they honestly brought a whole different meaning to horror flicks based on actual events. Annabelle in particular was one of the most diabolical characters to ever be brought to the big screen. Valak, on the other hand, had a very sinister aura as a whole. Its appearance alone was enough to send shivers down my spine, and that's very rare for someone like me, because the last time I was that petrified was when I watched the first Insidious movie.
Now that we've gone through countless spin-offs and a subpar third entry, we now have another movie based entirely again to the established storyline from the first Nun movie, to which I personally did not enjoy, and I just find it to be very forgettable. It was a fairly decent movie, and while I expected it to be just as mediocre as the first one, there were some parts of the movie, specifically towards the third act, that made me feel pleasantly surprised. But unfortunately, there are still things that made me genuinely stare into the screen with a 1,000-yard stare a la Oppenheimer style.
First things first, let's just get all the negatives out of the way. This movie is literally another great example as to why horror movies are not the way that they used to be anymore. Specifically horror movies that are part of an existing franchise. I couldn't count on one hand how many times the movie tries to bait me into a corner and go,
Oh shit! It's a Nun Touch Me personality!
The Nun II unapologetically treats jump scares like how a heroin addict treats himself on a Friday night. They just can't get enough of it. And what's worse is that 9 times out of 10, were these jump scares ever really effective? I could already tell that I was in for quite the doozy once I started predicting every single jump scare, because it was obvious from the get-go that they were trying to justify that 2.5-hour runtime. Another common horror movie trope that really pisses me off is the one where a character hears a loud bang in an obviously dark corridor, and the first thing that comes to their mind is like, what was that? Huh, better check it out. Basically, to compress all my lingering annoyances into one sentence, it just doesn't work. Also, I just don't feel very comfortable with James Wan not being in charge of everything director-wise, and from a writing standpoint, it is unfortunately very noticeable. There are certain key elements in the Nun II's plot that's comparable to a child trying to solve a fucking jigsaw puzzle. There are certain pieces that just don't feel like they're in the right spot. More often than not, the plot that they're trying to tinker out was either lost in a sea of poorly executed jump scares, or the predictability of its conclusion that's obviously banking off the success of the first 2 films. Though, I have to say, for a movie that's almost 2 hours long, I actually have to give credit where credit is due, because I didn't feel that runtime necessarily, and that's largely in part due to its decent pacing. Taissa Farmiga's performance was a bit more fleshed out because I found her character devoid of any form of personality whatsoever. In The Nun II, her character was somewhat given whatever they could think of that was doable, that could contribute to her backstory. They're really trying to paint her out as the new badass paranormal hero while still retaining the horror aspects that made this franchise so popular in the public eye. Storm Reed was a surprisingly very nice addition to the cast, and I had no doubts that she was going to absolutely kill it in this movie. Case in point, her role as Riley in The Last of Us show adaptation. While her performance was proven to be quite beneficial to the movie's plot, I just wish that they would explore more of her chemistry with Farmiga, because all throughout the movie it felt as if they were striving to be more objective with their dialogue exchange, and that it should only stay on point with the movie's central arc, rather than giving Reed the freedom to explore more of the character's inner turmoil. Jonas Bloquet's performance, I think, was the absolute highlight of this movie. In the first movie, I found his character to be quite annoying to say the least, But in this one, I feel like they have chosen to redeem those faults in general, and what we got as a result was a man whose soul is clearly in an obvious state of torment, and Blokehead absolutely knocks it out of the park, especially his chemistry with a boarding school student played by Caitlin Rose Downey, which I thought was absolutely sweet, and it helped balance out the feeling of dread and suspense.
So while The Nun II does prove itself to be significantly better than the first movie, in terms of character moments and a decent pace speed, it's still riddled with the same issues that many mainstream horror films are facing nowadays. I think it just goes to show that until James Wan gets a seat again at the director's chair, this franchise is doomed to be an absolute fall from grace, and I honestly hope it doesn't come to that.
What do you think, sir? You think it's going to be another hit for us? Is there a problem?
No, it's just... I think I'm starting to realize that reboots, prequels, and sequels are the main deeply rooted issues of our industry today. Sure, they make us a ton of money, but to what extent would that tactic even last?
I mean, I guess I could see your point. I mean, we are creatively bankrupt in terms of original storytelling.
I'm starting to miss the golden age of Hollywood, you know? I want to go back to the way things used to be, where we don't need to worry about how much our film should be making, but whether or not, if we're proud of what we've even made in the first place, of what we, the filmmakers, studio execs, accomplished. I don't know. Sorry. I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
Oh, no, sir, it's fine. I mean, I share the same sentiments as you. Absolutely. But do you still want to release the movie, though? We are expecting another Conjuring movie in the works.
Oh, hell yeah.